Hi! This is my first time ever making a Facebook Live video or going live online. So, welcome. Today I'm talking about Ojas. So, if you are live too, you can type in. I'm learning how to do all of this. Type in a comment or a question and I can answer it. So, Ojas is the subtle aspect of Kapha dosha. There are the three doshas: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Hi, Sharon! Yay! Thanks for coming live. Yeah, so there's three doshas, and the doshas can help us stay in balance, and they can take us out of balance. All three doshas have a subtle aspect to them. Hi. So the subtle aspect of Vata is air and space. And the subtle aspect of that is prana. So it's our life force energy. And then Pitta dosha is mostly fire and some water. And the subtle aspect of that is called tejas. And then Kapha dosha, which is what we're going to be leading into today, that is earth and water. And the subtle aspect is ojas. So prana, tejas, and ojas are the positive, subtle aspects of the three doshas. You can't really have too much of them, but they need to be in balance. So if there's too much prana or too much tejas, then that can lead to detriment of ojas. So ojas is the water and earth element. When it's in balance, it's the subtle aspect, and it is what is in charge of our immunity and keeping us healthy. Ojas is like the container for the other two. And when we have enough ojas, we are healthy through the seasons. It's like our inner joy, it's our peace, our contentment. And when we don't have enough ojas, that's when outside influences like colds and flu can take us down. And so I'm just going to explain a little bit about how that works. Hey, Beth! Thanks for joining live! Yay! I'm happy you guys could make it. Yeah, so I was saying this is my first time going live, so excuse me for being a little bit nervous. But talking about ojas, the subtle element of kapha, it is liquid cohesion and stability within our bodies. She says hi. And the way that this works, the way that Ojas keeps us healthy through cold and flu season is that basically if we have too much Vata energy or too much Pitta energy, things dry out. We don't have the natural lubrication that holds us together, and that's where invaders can get into our system. So if you can imagine a patch of mud, like earth grounding outside, it's wet, it's moist, and the sun dries it out. It'll evaporate all of that moisture, and you can see the little cracks in the dirt when things get dry. And that's when an ant could crawl in. That's sort of like what happens when in our body and our minds we have too much vata. Vata is air and movement, and that's drying. It's like the wind is blowing out all of that. It's pulling the moisture. We dry out, and then we have the cracks, and then pests or bugs can get in and infiltrate our system. And the same thing happens when we have excess pitta or excess fire. It's like we're literally burning out the moisture. We're evaporating and getting rid of all of it so that we're left with this dried out system. And that's when things get thrown out of balance and when we don't have enough ojas. And there's also, for women, we lose ojas when we give birth, because basically giving birth is a vata type experience. We're opening, we're letting things out, things are leaving us. So after the birth experience, many of us, our hair falls out. We've literally dried out all of that extra lubrication and moisture has left our system. And if we don't take care of ourselves and bring the moisture back in, we just become really susceptible to illness and colds. And it never goes away until we have the self-care to put it all back into place. Any questions so far? All right. So in Ayurveda, everything starts with the digestive system. And Ojas is no different. Um, it starts with Agni and how we digest things so that all the doshas are functioning properly and the nutrients get to the right place in our body, that we create that welcoming environment. So some things that help our Agni, our digestive fire, are eating on a regular schedule, not watching things while we eat. So for me, it's really painful sometimes to turn my computer off or not read books while I'm eating. And if you've done any Ayurveda stuff with me so far, this is all repetitive. That's because it's the building blocks of wellness and health in Ayurveda, and it never goes away. And sometimes it's easier to follow than other times, right? Sometimes it's easy to eat mindfully and peacefully, and then sometimes life calls. So it's just this constant reminder to take a breath before eating, to express some gratitude, whether it's out loud or internally. Sorry, I'm looking all around. This is my first time making a Facebook Live, so I'm not even sure where I'm supposed to look at my computer. But hi, Nicole. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so we're talking about like using your supporting your digestive fire, and that is going to support your ojas, your immunity, and your inner peace and your bliss. So avoid eating while talking about stressful stuff, just trying to create a peaceful environment. How do you guys create a peaceful environment when you're eating? One thing I tell Max all the time is let's say thank you to the farmer who made this food possible, or for the store for selling it. So yeah, so taking care of your digestive fire, setting those regular meal times, following all of the Vata guidelines will help if you have elevated Vata, which most of us do. The internet and traveling and the flow of information, ideas, it all elevates our Vata. So basically, everybody needs grounding practices for the most part, just to calm that down. And then the other factors that affect our ojas, that yes, Sharon said the way she cultivates that peaceful eating environment is to do nothing but eat and visit with the person that she's with. Beautiful. So, and sleep. Sleep is like a big factor in protecting your ojas, because if you think about that, ojas is a subtle aspect of kapha, which is stability, the earth element, and water, the cohesion. It's what holds us all together and creates the vessel. Then sleep is so important. It's like the ultimate in earth energy that's going to ground us and take care of us. And sleep is sacred in Ayurveda. We need 7 to 9 hours depending on your dosha, and kids need 10 to 12 hours. So who gets enough sleep? I just talked about this today in my yoga class, that I've moved the phone out of my bedroom. I bought a real little mini alarm clock. It's like 2 inches. It goes on a battery. So now if the kids wake me up, I can just look at the clock and see what time it is rather than looking at my phone. Because I realized that I say that sleep is sacred, but when I have the phone in my room, it's like this extra person that's calling for me to look things up or chat on Facebook or social media. And so she's now in a different room at night. The next thing to help protect ojas is just avoiding toxins. And that's because the toxins, whether it's through alcohol, drugs, pollutants in the environment, food that's not organic or processed or preserved, all of that throws sand on our Agni. Yes, Beth says working hard on sleep, going to bed earlier than I used to. I'm with you. Anyone else have a hard time going to bed on time? So in Ayurveda, it's recommended that we're all asleep by 10 p.m. And that's because that's when Pitta time starts. That's when the energy of transformation and digestion takes over. And if we're not asleep, that's when we are most likely to get that second wind and we get excited about something. And I know for me, Sometimes I get really excited working on my blog. The kids are finally asleep and it's a creative outlet and I want to do it. But then I notice if I do it past 10 o'clock, I get that second wind and it just starts a cause and effect, right? And then I'm blogging about going to bed early, but I'm not actually going to bed early. That's a problem. So you guys can hold me accountable for that, that I am going to bed. And by moving my cell phone out of my room, that hopefully will make a huge difference too. So yes, avoiding the toxins, because that is like throwing sand or dirt or water onto our digestive fire, which gets it not working as properly. And then, yeah, it's like they all don't function. It's when one goes down, they all go down. And when they all function well, we're like this healthy, vibrant being where everything in our body is just doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then the last thing that I wrote down in the handout is to avoid excessive wind and sun exposure. So going back to that dried out dirt where the ants can crawl in, it's like if your system is dried out and the bugs can crawl in, that might be a cold or flu virus. What are the things that are causing that drying out? And if it's vata related, the wind is a vata type element. And on our head, we have our eyes and our ears, and there's all of this crown chakra energy, and we can protect it by wearing a hat, hood, or just if you can avoid not going outside as much during extreme wind, that's helpful. And then it's the same with pitta when it's the center of the day and the sun is blazing, then we can burn up and evaporate the liquid inside of us. And for me, the more that I have become aligned with Ayurveda and trying to live the practices, the more that I notice the effects of the sun, and it's uncomfortable for me. So I avoid going out in the middle of the day. And I usually take the kids to the beach either after school or after dinner, now that the weather is still nice. So yeah, cover up your head with a hat and protect yourself from the elements so that they don't suck all of that moisture out of you. Any questions so far? So there are two easy recipes. I wouldn't even call them recipes. They're just things that you can consume to help build ojas. Ghee with dates. So I've been posting in this group about making ghee at home. It's pretty easy. And ghee with dates is just as easy. All you do is buy some dates, chop them up, put them in a clean, dry jar, and then when you make your ghee, pour it over the dates, put the lid on, and stick it in the cupboard. You can leave it for a couple of weeks and then eat it, although I did make some this past Monday for the full moon, and I'm already eating it. I can't wait. But I made 2 jars with dates and then 1 jar. So buy extra unsalted, organic, pasture-raised butter when you make your ghee. I make a bunch of it at once. The last batch I think lasted me 3 months, so I make a lot at once. And then I make half with dates and half not. And you can put that in oatmeal. You could put it on wherever you would put something that's a little bit sweet. It's delicious. I love it. Yeah, we eat it on breakfast, homemade breakfast cereal all the time. And then the other recipe is saffron is said to help also build ojas. So you could throw a pinch of saffron in rice or whatever you're making. But saffron in milk is delicious. So you could use cow's milk, which ideally unpastured or raw would be the first choice, or grass-fed. Oh, Beth asked, do I chop the dates? Yes, I chop them up. I take the little end piece off, like where it's was connected to the tree, and I take the seed pit out, I guess. And then I chop them up into like little bite-sized pieces, like the size that I would want to eat. Because I usually just put it on oatmeal or breakfast cereal. So yeah, I chop up the dates. I would say that I used 2 old jelly jars on Monday, and I probably chopped up about 12 dates, maybe like 6 dates in each. I filled the jar about 2/3 full. I've done it in the past where I only filled the jar 1/3 full of dates and then poured the ghee, but then I ran out of the dates and they're so delicious. So I just fill the whole thing up with as many dates as I can in the jar. And it should last. I mean, I've read that ghee lasts like up to 6 months in the cupboard. Mine's never lasted that long, but 3 months is totally fine. You just want to make sure with ghee, of course, that you never get moisture in the jar. So if you scoop out a spoonful and then for some reason food got on that spoon and you wash it off, you want to make sure you dry it with a towel before you put it back in the jar, because then you don't want mold since it's not going in the fridge. So yes, ghee with dates, and then the other recipe is warm milk, which you could use cow's milk or almond milk or whatever milk really that you want, and add saffron. And I like to make, oh, and you add a date to that too. So usually what I will do is I have a little stainless steel pot that's smaller, so the stuff heats up faster. So I'll just put a little tiny bit of coconut oil in the pot, and then I put the milk, and I put spices. So I add turmeric to everything. So I'll put turmeric and saffron and cardamom and cinnamon, but you don't need all of that. You can pick and choose and play with what spices you want. I warm it all up. I take it, pour it in the blender with one date minus the pit, and blend it up and drink it, and it's absolutely delicious. So it's just a variation of golden milk. It's up to you if you want to put the turmeric or not, but the saffron and the date are the ingredients that are said to increase ojas. So yeah. Any other questions? I will leave you with, what did I? Oh, the idea that ojas is our stability and it's our nourishment, and it's the glue that holds us together. The water element provides cohesion so that things operate smoothly, and the earth is our stability. And ojas is the subtle aspect of water and earth. You can't have too much of this subtle aspect. You can have too much kapha, which looks like phlegm or wet allergies or things like that. That would be too much of that water element. But ojas being the subtle aspect of it is what we want. And when it comes to ojas, we have the ojas, the prana, and the tejas. Prana is the subtle aspect of vata energy. Tejas is a subtle aspect of pitta. It's not that you can have too much of any of these. It's just that when they're out of balance, the prana or the tejas could dry out the ojas. And the ojas is really what has to be protected. So you notice if you're fiery and you're doing a lot of fiery activities and things are burning up, then you might get sick. It's like the ojas is getting burned up. Or if it's fall and things are dry outside and you're doing drying activities like eating popcorn and traveling a lot and being on an airplane, it's like everything is dried out. You can tell your nose gets dried out and you need more lubrication. And that's what ojas is. It's like internal lubrication. And it goes also for our minds and the way the mind works. And that's why they say ojas is our bliss or our contentment. It's like things are moist and lubricated, so when a negative thought pops in or someone else says something that bothers you, when you have that strong stability and support and you're rooted and confident in yourself, then that comment or that thought or that idea, it just goes in and out. It's like it doesn't have a home here. But when things are dried out, like that dirt that's dried out that the ant can crawl in, then if your mind is working like that and it's like there's all this vata energy, that's how a thought comes in and it wedges its way in there and it's stuck in there. And that's how the earth and water element can help us to just let things go, to cultivate that sort of environment within that where we're nourished. And yeah, so it's really important to, especially in the climate that we're in right now in vata season here in America, to be grounded, to be nourished, and to create that stability for ourselves. So if anyone else have any questions before we wrap up? Okay, thanks. You can email me or post them in the group, and I love chatting about this. So thank you so much for being here for my first ever Facebook Live. I love you guys. Bye.